I once believed that family was supposed to be forever, a fortress built of love, loyalty, and blood. But I was wrong. When I was just a boy, that fortress collapsed around me, and the rubble it left behind wasn't warm or protective. It was cold, jagged, and merciless. My name is Daniel Price, and this is the story of how I was abandoned, forgotten, and left to rot, and how I clawed my way back from the ashes to build something unbreakable. Before I begin, if you're someone who values stories about resilience, betrayal, and redemption, make sure to subscribe right now. And drop your hometown in the comments below. I want to know where in the world you're listening from. Now, let's go back to the night it all started. It was the kind of southern summer night that suffocates you, sticky and heavy, the air so thick it clung to your skin. The buzzing of cicadas outside pressed against the thin glass of my bedroom window, while my ceiling fan clicked like an old metronome above me. I was 9 years old, restless and thirsty. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake my sisters down the hall, tugging my sneakers on and padding softly across the frayed beige carpet. I was heading toward the kitchen for a glass of milk, but what I found there stole every drop of warmth from my veins. The kitchen lights spilled dim yellow across the table, where my parents sat hunched together. My dad's voice was low, but sharp enough to cut. "We can't keep this up, Claire," he muttered, his fingers gripping the edge of the table. "The twins' music lessons, their private school tuition, it's bleeding us dry. We're sinking." And then the words that shattered me. Daniel's expendable. Expendable. Like a disposable toy. Like I was just one more burden they could set down. My mother didn't gasp. Didn't cry. Didn't protest. Her face was stone, her voice cold. "Your brother Nathan has that estate in Kentucky. He's alone, no wife, no children. He could take Daniel. It would solve everything." I froze in the hallway, my small fists balled at my sides, my pulse pounding in my ears so loud I could barely breathe. They weren't talking about bills. They weren't talking about the future. They were talking about me, about handing me off like unwanted furniture. The next morning, over breakfast, they laughed and smiled like nothing had happened. They poured syrup on pancakes for my twin sisters, Lena and Chloe, asking about their choir rehearsals, their recitals. But when their eyes drifted toward me, there was nothing there. No warmth, no concern, just distance. It was like they had already started erasing me from the family portrait. 6 weeks later, it became real. The car ride to Kentucky was long, hot, and hollow. Static hissed from the radio, interrupted now and then by my dad's short, clipped answers whenever I asked where we were going. "It's just a little vacation," he muttered, his knuckles pale on the steering wheel. "You'll love it." But his eyes never met mine. When we finally pulled up to my Uncle Nathan's estate, my breath caught in my throat. The house wasn't just big, it was massive. A sprawling Victorian mansion, ivy climbing its stone walls, tall windows glinting like watchful eyes. It looked like something out of an old novel, elegant and a little eerie. Nathan himself was waiting on the front steps. Broad-shouldered, silver-bearded, his face weathered but his eyes warm. He crouched down so he was eye level with me, and his voice was steady, kind. "Daniel," he said, his hand firm on my shoulder. "Welcome to your new chapter." I didn't understand. Not yet. My parents hauled my duffel bag inside, into a parlor that smelled of cedar and old books. They sat me down on a velvet couch, their faces stiff and unreadable. "We're heading back," my mom said flatly. I blinked at them, confusion choking me. "When are you coming to pick me up?" My dad wouldn't look at me. "Soon, kid. Just be good for Nathan." Their hug was quick, mechanical, like swatting away a fly. Then they were gone. I stood at the window, watching the dust rise behind their car as it disappeared down the long gravel drive. My chest ached with a dread I couldn't name. That night, lying in a giant four-poster bed that felt far too big for me, I stared at the ceiling. The moonlight spilled across the rose garden outside, and I waited for the phone to ring. Waited for my parents to call. But it never came. Months turned into years. And in those years, I learned what family actually meant. Nathan didn't just give me a roof. He gave me a place. He asked about the comics I devoured, the sketches I filled my notebooks with. He listened in a way my parents never had. He saw me. He taught me how to carve wood, our hands working side by side, cedar shavings curling onto the floor. He introduced me to architecture, showing me how to read blueprints, how to see the world in lines and angles. We grilled steaks on Sundays, hiked the rolling Kentucky hills, and stayed up late watching sci-fi shows, laughing until tears blurred the screen. He signed me up for art classes, came to every exhibit, and bought me a new sketchpad when he saw me doodling in the margins of my homework. But the wound of my parents' betrayal lingered like a bruise that refused to fade. I still remember asking Nathan, just before school started up again in Georgia, Are they coming back for me? His jaw tightened. He sat me down and told me the truth. They're not coming back, Daniel, he said softly. They signed custody over to me. I'm your guardian now. The words burned through me like acid. Sign me over. Like a bad debt they'd handed off. I didn't cry. I couldn't. Instead, I raged. I tore my pillow with my fists until my knuckles stung. They had kept Lena and Chloe, but me? I was the sacrifice. The piece they cut away to keep their perfect picture intact. Nathan didn't sugarcoat it. He sat with me in silence when I couldn't speak. He let me break, let me scream, let me fall apart. And when the storm inside me finally quieted, he was still there. And that was enough. By the time I turned 17, I had built a life with Nathan. A strange, unexpected life, but one filled with real love. He wasn't just my guardian. He was my father, in every way that mattered. But life has a cruel way of yanking the ground out from under you. It started with a cough. A deep, rattling cough Nathan tried to wave off as a cold. But when the hospital scans came back, everything changed. Lung cancer. Advanced. I watched the strongest man I knew fight through chemo, oxygen tanks, and days so painful, he couldn't even sit up. I cooked his favorite chili, read him my comics when his voice was too weak, and drove him to every treatment. For a while, it seemed like he might beat it. The scans cleared, the doctors smiled. But cancer doesn't play fair. On my 19th birthday, it came roaring back, relentless. That night, Nathan pressed his old drafting compass into my hand, his fingers trembling. His voice rasped, weak but firm. You're my legacy, Daniel. Build something extraordinary. 3 months later, he was gone. I buried Nathan alone, in the quiet Kentucky soil he loved so much. The house felt impossibly large without him, every creak echoing with silence. 2 days after the funeral, there was a knock at the door. When I peeked through the curtain, my heart stopped. My parents, my sisters, standing there, dressed sharp, faces solemn, but their eyes gave them away. I opened the door, my hands trembling. Daniel, honey, my mother cooed, arms outstretched. We're so sorry. We came to support you. I stepped back, away from her embrace. Support me? Where were you when Nathan was dying? When I buried him? My father brushed past me into the parlor, his eyes roaming the ornate furniture. We're family, he said smoothly. We're here to help you handle everything. My sisters smirked as they ran their fingers over Nathan's carved oak desk, their eyes gleaming. Sweet setup, Lena whispered. This place has to be worth millions. And there it was. The truth. They weren't here for me. They were here for the estate. For the money. For the $4 million fortune Nathan had left behind. My father turned to me, his voice oily. You're too young to manage all this. We'll handle it for you. I felt the fury surge through me. I called Nathan's lawyer, Miss Carver, who arrived like a quiet storm. She brandished Nathan's will, her voice calm but sharp. Daniel is an adult. This estate is his. You signed him away years ago. You have no rights here. Their faces crumbled. My father shouted. My mother pleaded. My sisters sulked. But it didn't matter. You threw me away. I told them, my voice steady. Nathan was my family. You're nothing to me now. The weeks after were filled with desperate calls, manipulative messages, tales of debt and regret. I recorded every word, handed it all to Ms. Carver. Eventually, a legal order silenced them for good. Now I'm 22. I'm in college, studying architecture, carrying Nathan's compass in my pocket. His house is mine now, alive with his spirit, filled with his memory. And I've learned something I want you to remember too. Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by love, by loyalty, by who chooses to stand beside you when the world falls apart. Nathan did. My parents didn't. I don't hate them. I just don't need them anymore. I've built friendships, found a girlfriend who knows every scar and loves me anyway, and I'm drafting a future of my own. One line, one sketch, one dream at a time. But let me ask you, what would you do if the very people meant to love you abandoned you? Would you forgive them? Would you let them back into your life? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share your own story if you've ever felt abandoned, discarded, or overlooked. And if you found strength in my story, make sure to subscribe for more powerful stories of resilience and triumph. This is Daniel Price, and I'm still here.